We're muted.
Oh, I thought I.
You're still muted.
Michael, can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
At last, I hit the right button. Shabbat Shalom. I know you said Shabbat Shalom to me, and I reciprocated.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Shabbat Shalom, Didi.
Do we have a bar bat mitzvah today?
Shabbat Shalom. I got it.
Hello. Shabbat Shalom.
We have a bat mitzvah this morning and one this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
That time of the year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Kiddush.
A virtual Kiddush, yeah.
Let's go to Phil.
On my screen, I'm also showing the various birthdays. Are you all getting that as well?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I think that's a new thing.
That's the screensaver.
Yeah,
Okay.
instead of seeing the sanctuary.
All right. Well, it's time for the formal service to begin.
One would hope.
Yes, it is.
I'm muting myself.
Yes, the same. Yeah.
Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Vani Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Temple Israel. I'm Rabbi Michael Wolk here on the Bima with my colleague, Cantor Shira Lissick. And we're happy to welcome our congregants who are joining us over Zoom and over StreamSpot for Shabbat this morning. And we are happy to welcome Natalie Berman and her parents, David and Alexis, and her family and friends who are here to celebrate her bat mitzvah, and her brother Zachary, who's sitting next to her also. We're happy to have you here too. And I'd like to invite Natalie and her parents to come up to the Bima. Come on over to Cantor's podium. Now, David, you're wearing a beautiful talit that I think you told me yesterday you got at your bar mitzvah, right?
I did, yes.
Yes, it is. So Natalie is about to get her beautiful talit, also in purple, matching the color theme for today, her favorite color. And where is this talit that Natalie is about to come from?
What's that?
Where does this talit come from?
We got it at a temple in New York City
And a gift.
from my parents.
Very nice. And each of us, when we become Jewish adults, we have our own talit, our own prayer shawl. We choose the design that we like, that resonates with us. But we all have the talit, the tzitzit, the fringes that we use during services and that serve as a reminder of God's mitzvot. So David and Alexis, I'm going to ask you to recite the first bracha, the first blessing for raising our children in the Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'gadol b'nim laTorah.
Amen. Natalie, would you please recite the blessing on putting on the talit?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hitatef b'tzitzit.
Amen. And now you can wrap Natalie in her talit officially for the first time. And all together, you can recite the Shehechianu, the blessing, thanking God for giving us the opportunity to do something new, something for the first time.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'hikimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Amen.
Lazman hazeh, lazman hazeh, lazman hazeh, lazman hazeh, hazeh.
Natalie, I think we are ready to start services right now. You think so? Yeah. You're good to go? Pull it down a little bit on this side. And you guys can go back to your seats as we daven the Shacharit service. We use Sidor Lev Shalem, smaller of the two red books. And we begin the morning service on page 147.
Befi yesharim titalal, titalal, uvdivrei tzadikim titbarach, titbarach, shochenan marom vekadosh shemo, shochenan marom vekadosh shemo, shochenan marom vekadosh shemo, v'chatu bar nitzarim bar nashim nemidilah. Befi sharim titalal uvdivrei tzadikim titbarach, uvilashon chasidim titromam, uvekerev kedoshim titkadash, uvmakalot rivevot amcha beit Yisrael. שכן חובה כל היצורים לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, להודות, להלל, לשבח, לבאר, לרומם, להדר, לברך, להלל ולקלס, על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות, דוד בן ישי, עבדך, משיחך.
Page 148, please rise.
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו על ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודעות אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך אל חי העולמים. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
ביום מה תברח חירותי, ביום נכמחותי, בחייכון וביום יכול נבחייתך בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל על שמי קודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בימה וימרו
Amen. Page 149, the bottom of the page.
La 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 ya 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 la 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 Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed Le'olam va'ed La 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 Ya 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 la 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 la
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who forms light while creating darkness, who brings harmony while creating all. May be seated, page 150.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, יוצר אור ובורא חושך, עושה שלום ובורא את הכל. הכל יודוך וכל ישבחוך והכל יאמרו קדוש כאדוני. אפס פתח הגואלים לימות המשיח, ואין דומה לך מושיענו לתחיית המתים.
Page 151, El Adon.
אל אדון על כל המעשים, ברוך ומבורך בפי כל נשמה, גודלו וטובו מלא עולם, דעת ותבונה סובבים אותו, המתגאה על חיות הקודש, ונדר בכבוד על המרכבה, זכות ומישור לפני כיסו, חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו, טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו, יצרם בדעת בבינה ובהשכל, כוח וגבורה נתן בהם, להיות מושלים בקרב תבל, מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה, נאה זיום בכל העולם, שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם, עושים במה רצון קונם. פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמו, צהלה ורינה לזכר מלכותו. קרא לשמש ויזרח אור, ראה והתקין צורת הלבנה. שבח נותנים לו כל צבא מרום, תפארת וגדולה, סרפים ואופנים, וחיות הקודש.
לילה ששבת מכל המעשים.
לילה ששבת מכל המעשים, בהם השביעית עלה וישב על כיסא כבודו. יתברך משה בשבח מעשה ידיך, והמאורי אור שעשית, יפרו חסלה.
Page 153.
תתברך צורנו מגן וגואלנו בורא קדושים. טובים כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים, וכולם עושים במעביר הרצון קונם, וכולם פותחים בפיהם בקדושה ובטהרה, בשירה ובזמרה, ומברכים ומשבחים, ומפרים ומעריצים, ומקדישים וממליכים, את שם האל המלך הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, הקדוש הוא. וכולם מקבלים עליהם עול מלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה, להקדיש ליותרם בנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה ובנימה קדושה, כולם כחרונים ואומרים ביראה, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. והאופנים בחיות הקודש ברעש כל המינסים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. כי לעולם חסדו. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו, מהרה לאורו, ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצא המאורו.
Amen. Page 154, we gather together the four corners of the Talit as we prepare to recite the Shema.
והביאנו לשלום ארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות ארצנו, כי אל פה ישועות אתה וברכת מגולם בלשון, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת, להודות לך ויחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. והיה אם שמוע תשמע מצוותיי שלכם. Adonai Elohechem, Amen.
Bottom of page 156.
לדור ודור וכמושמו קיים וחיסון לכל מחזב ומונתו לעד קיים מדבר חי וחיים אמת שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו מלכנו מלך אבותינו ואימותינו גואלינו גואל אבותינו ואימותינו יוצרנו ישועתנו פותנו הצילנו מעולם שמך אין אלוהים זולתך עזרת אבותינו ואימותינו אתה ומעולם מגנו אשר לבני מראה מכל טוב ודור אמרת הוא משמע את האחרון ולצחים לנו מלך כהן ומושיע.
Moses, Miriam, and the people of Israel joyfully sang this song to you, Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Middle of page 158, please rise.
תהילו ליל היום ברוך ומבורך משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלה שירה חדשה שבחו שמך שפת הים יחד כולם הרובים ניחו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד דור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל ובטחנו בך יהודה וישראל גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 159, we begin the Shacharit Amidah together out loud.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב אלוהי שרה אלוהי רבקה אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסרי אבות ואימהות ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ופוקד ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיה מתים אתה רב להושיע מוריד אתה מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה המתים נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום ככתוב היה נביאך וקרא זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך הארץ כבודו אדיר וחזק משפיעים, כל מתנשאים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון? מתי תמלוך בציון? בקרוב בימינו, לעולם ועד תשכון. בקרוב בימינו, לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש, בתוך ירושלים עירך. לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים. לדור ודור, ולנצח נצחים. ועינינו תראנה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך, על ידי דוד משיח תיקך, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו ישמיע עולם ועד, כי המלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Continue praying silently.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. La 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
Page 167, Kaddish Shalem.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
ועמד יברא קדושי בן מלכותי בחיי ובמלכות בית בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם לא מאומיה, Yiparach, Yiparach, Yishabach, Vipar, Vitruma, Vina, Sevita, Zarvita, Vitalash, Medikud, Shabrichu, Leila, Mikho, Bechata, Shirata, Shubrata, Menachamata, Zamiran, Beama, Vimru, Amen. Tikabal, Sotonova, Tonzo, Israel, Kodam, Avuhon, Vishmai, Vimru, Amen. Yesham, Rabba, Michmai, Vachaimalin, Velko, Israel, Vimru, Amen. Ose Shalom, Bimroma, Vuyase Shalom, Aleinu, Velko, Israel, Velko, Yoshvi, Tevel, Vimru, Amen.
Amen. We
Amen.
turn to page 168 for the Torah service. Invite everyone to please rise, and I'm happy to call on our bat mitzvah today, Natalie Berman, to join us on the bima, and Natalie's aunt and cousin, Jessica and Theo Berman, to join us to open the ark. Page 168.
Bien kemaaseha Malchut ha malchut ko olamim umemshaltaha behodor vador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imlo leolam vaed Adonai Oz Leolam Yitain Adonai Yevareh Et Amo Shalom Av HaRahamim Hetiv Avirtzon Ha Et Zion Tivnei Homot Yerushalayim Tivnei Homot Yerushalayim Ki v'ha lavad batanu Melech el ram visna Adon olamim Vayehi bin soah ha'aron Vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai Veyafutsu oiveha Veyanusu mesaneha mipaneha Ki mitzion tetze Torah Ki mitzion tetze Torah Udevar Adonai Me'Yerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'Kedushato.
We are the servants of the Holy One, whom we revere and whose Torah we revere at all times. Not on mortals do we rely, nor on angels do we depend, but on the God of heaven, the God of truth, whose Torah is truth, whose prophets are true, and who abounds in deeds of goodness and truth. In God do we put our trust, unto God's holy precious name do we offer praise. May it be your will that you open our hearts to your Torah, and that you fulfill the desires of our hearts and the hearts of all your people Israel, for goodness, for life, and for peace. And let us say, Amen. I invite Alexis and David and Natalie's grandparents, Sharon Berman and Joan and Jeff Barris, to join us on the bima. Natalie leads us, page 170, Be'anarachetz, the bottom of the page.
Be'anachetz Velishme Kadisha Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushbehan Be'anachetz Be'anachetz Velishme Kadisha Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushbehan Ye'era'ava Kadama Detifta Lebi Boraita Betashlim Mishalin Delibi Veliba Deholama Yisrael Letavu Lehalin Velishlam Amen.
Alexis, you stand next to Natalie, and grandparents line up. And David, would you take the Torah from the ark and pass it l'dor vador, from generation to generation, from grandparents to parents to Natalie, symbolizing passing our sacred traditions. Got it. Natalie leads us, Shema Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlul Adonai iti, Unero mima shemo yachdav.
Lecha Adonai Hagdula v'Hagvura v'Hatiferet v'Hanetzach v'Hahod Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'haminaseh lechol rosh Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu leharkocho Ve'ishtachavu leharkocho Ve'ishtachavu leharkocho Ve'ishtachavu leharkocho Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu.
May be seated. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome again to Temple Israel. We're happy to have our regulars joining us today, and we're happy to have the family and friends of Natalie Berman celebrating her bat mitzvah here to rejoice with her and see her be called to the Torah for the first time. Each week, we read a section of the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, called a parasha. The Torah is divided into 54 parshiot. We read one each Shabbat and complete the cycle around the high holidays and restart reading the Torah. We retell our sacred stories over and over again. And this week, our Torah portion is the parsha of Emor in the book of Vayikra, the book of Leviticus. If you have the Eitz Chaim Chumash, the larger red book here in the congregation, we're on page 722. If you're following along in another edition, the first verse that we read is Leviticus chapter 22, verse 17. Again, page 722 in the Eitz Chaim Chumash. Now, the entire book of Vayikra, Leviticus, addressed extensively to the Levites and to the Kohanim, the priests, is probably the hardest to relate to book of the 5 books of Moses. All of the talk of sacrifices, in Hebrew korbanot, of priests, of purity, of impurity, seems so far removed from our current world. And in fact, it is very far removed. It depicts a form of religion that has passed from our practice a long time ago. Yet, the spirit of this parsha and all of Leviticus lives on in the way that we practice. The underlying principles that guided our ancestors in Leviticus continue to guide us today. For example, our reading this morning opens in the middle of a discussion of sacrifices that individuals would bring to God in the ancient temple. Sacrifices that people could bring as thanks or as to atone for something that they had done. And the important principle that these verses teach early on is that when you bring an offering to God, it should be perfect and unblemished. That is, you looked for the best animal you could possibly find. Now today, instead of offering God animal sacrifices, we pray. We offer God the words of our mouths, of our hearts. But this is still an important principle. It takes work to stand up here, to lead services, or to read Torah. And whether you're standing up here as a professional or as a layperson, we always strive to give our best performance up here and always strive to improve, to learn more, so that we offer to God and to the congregation our best effort to make it as close to unblemished, to be as close to perfect as possible, even while knowing that we always have a chance to learn. Then, the main section of today's reading moves on from sacrifices and addresses holidays that we are very familiar with, holidays that we observe today. Shabbat, such as today, Passover, which we observed about a month ago, the counting of the Omer, the time period that we are in now, Rosh Hashanah, what we call the New Year, which back in times of the Torah was actually the 7th month, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and Sukkot, the Feast of Booths, the holiday in which we go outside and dwell in temporary Sukkot, reminding us of how our ancestors lived in the desert. And this calendar of holidays opens with a verse that has a very rich interpretive history. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, these are my fixed times, the fixed times of the Lord, which you shall proclaim as sacred occasions." And the rabbis who look at this verse note that even though these are God's fixed times, in Hebrew moadim, or as we might say today, holidays, it is you, by that we mean us, that have to proclaim them as sacred occasions. In other words, the time of a holiday may come around, but it is not actually a holiday unless we mark it as a holiday. Today, I might say that a Jewish holiday, or any holiday for that matter, is as special as you make it. But in ancient Israel, declaring a holiday was even more literal. Because before there was a fixed calendar, there was an ancient court that had to determine when each new month started. That is, a Hebrew month based on the lunar cycle. A Hebrew month could either be 29 or 30 days. And the court based the beginning of the new month on witnesses who reported seeing a new moon. The Talmud records that Rabban Gamliel was an expert in sighting of the new moon, an expert in the phases of the moon, and that he kept diagrams or models depicting the different stages of the moon that he would show to potential witnesses to assess if they had in fact seen a new moon. Now, since the Jewish holidays are listed as, for example, the 14th day of the first month or the 10th day of the 7th month, you needed to know when the month actually began to know when to celebrate the holidays. Well, one year, the Talmud tells us, this led to a very public and what could have been a very ugly fight. Rabban Gamliel and another rabbi, Rabbi Joshua, disagreed on the date of Rosh Hashanah, which is the first day of the month of Tishrei. Okay, well, once Rosh Hashanah passes, we all know today, the next holiday up was Yom Kippur on the 10th day of the month. But since the two leaders disagreed on which day was actually the first day of the month, they were also disagreeing on which day was Yom Kippur, which day was the day that we think of as the holiest day on the Jewish calendar. Now, while we will never know who was actually right, which day was the first day of the new lunar cycle, we do know that Rabban Gamliel used his authority to coerce Rabbi Joshua to appear in court on the day that Rabbi Joshua felt was Yom Kippur with his walking stick and wallet. In a display of power, he forced his more junior colleague to violate the day that he thought was Yom Kippur, because according to Rabban Gamliel, it wasn't Yom Kippur, it was just an ordinary day. If you were Rabbi Joshua, you would not have been thrilled with this. Now, while this could have been the beginning of a big rift, Rabban Gamliel went out of his way to stand outside and to welcome in Rabbi Joshua, arms open, ready to hug him, to embrace him, and declaring, "Welcome, Rabbi Joshua. You are my teacher who is greater than I in Torah and in wisdom." But Rabban Gamliel knew the importance of having one unified calendar that everyone agreed on. He did not actually want to hurt his colleague. And it's a remarkable story. And as I said, it has implications for the way that we think of Jewish communities and Jewish practice today. Because while we have a fixed calendar that we can all look on paper or online, as most likely now, we still have, as synagogues, often to make policy or ritual decisions that affect the religious lives of congregants both inside and outside of this building. Yet, like the rabbis of old, we are far from a monolithic entity. One of the things that I particularly enjoy about being a conservative rabbi is that conservative synagogues are made up of people of many different backgrounds, with different levels of Jewish education and different religious preferences, who come to the synagogue because they enjoy the style, the form of Judaism that we offer. While not everyone will agree with a given policy or ritual decision, we still have to make them as a community, because we know that a community has boundaries, has borders, and that those are important for keeping people within the community, showing people how we act when we come together as a group. Like Rabban Gamliel, we understand that sometimes there is room for debate and different opinions, and that sometimes there needs to be one accepted answer. The debate about the calendar that starts with today's Torah reading has long been settled. We all agree on what day is the first day of Tishrei. We all can look up when Passover will fall next year, whether we think it is early or late. But debates continue to be part of Jewish life, and they constantly change what it is that we are discussing. We learn from this Torah portion that as a community, we come together and understand that we choose to be in agreement with the people around us, even as we sometimes disagree personally. We begin our Torah reading today, the Torah portion of Emor, on page 722, Leviticus chapter 22, verse 17. We call and we chant 7 aliyot, 7 readings, many of whom are family members of Natalie. For the first Aliyah, our Torah reader will be Barney Weinstock, and we call on Sylvia Schwartz. And for the people here in the congregation, this is a hybrid service. We are on the way back to having our normal services after a year of virtual services. So many of the readers will be participating over Zoom today. Page 722, verse 17.
ויעזור ויגן ויושיע לכל החוסים בו ונאמר אמן, הכל הגדול ונתנו כבוד לתורה. יעמוד כהן בראש, נתן תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו, ואתם מדביקים באדוני אלוהיכם, חיים כולכם היום.
Baruch hu Adonai HaBarak.
ברוך אדוני מבורך לעולם ועד.
Baruch Adonai HaBarak L'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'harbanu mikol amin, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el Aharon ve'el banav, ve'el kol bnei Yisrael ve'amarta alehem, ish ish b'beit Yisrael, min hager b'Yisrael, asher yakriv karbano l'chol nidreihem v'l'chol nidvosam, asher yakriv l'Adonai le'olah, l'irtzonechem, tamim zachor babakar, bakvasim uvaizim, kol asher bo mum lo sakrivu, lo l'ratzon, ki lo l'ratzon yeh lachem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam notah b'Toraheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
Yasher kochech, Sylvia. We continue, page 722, the second Aliyah, verse 21. For this Aliyah, we call on Bunny Bramson.
תעמוד בלחנינה בת אברהם הלוי ובתיה לוי.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaBarak.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bacha banu mikol huamim benatan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Veish ki akriv zeva shlamim laranai. Lefalei neder ol nedavar babakar ovatzon. Tamim yiel ratzon kol mum lo yebo. Averes o shavur o charutz o yabeles o garav. Oh, Yafeh Lefes lo sakrivu evel Adonai veishe lo sitnu mehem al hamizbeach ladonai v'shor v'aseh sorua v'kolut nidava lo saseh oso v'laneder lo yeratzeh Umauch v'chasus v'nasuch v'charus lo sakrivu l'Adonai uva'artzechem lo sasu umiyad ben nechor lo sakrivu es lechem Elohechem v'kol eleh ki mosh chasam bohem mumbam Lo yeratzu lachem. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
Yasher kochech bani and Yasher koach barni. We continue with the third Aliyah, page 723, Leviticus chapter 22, verse 26. Our reader will be Steve Powell, and for this Aliyah, we call on Michael Abadi.
Ya'amod shlishi.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch
Adonai
Adonai
Baruch
Baruch
Leolam
Leolam
Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim benatan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vadaber Adonai el Moshe lemor shor o kesev o eis ki yavaleid v'haya shivat yamim tachat imo umeyom hashemini v'hala yiratzeh lo korban ishel Adonai v'shor oseh oto v'yetano lo tishkatu v'yom echad the kitis baku zevak toda ladonai lirtzonechem tis bahu vayomahu yeakel lo totiru mimenu ad bocher ani adonai v'shmartem mitzvotai v'asitem otam ani adonai v'lo techalalu et shem kodshi v'nikdashti v'tov B'nei Yisrael, ani Adonai mekadish kem. Hamotzi etchem eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'elohim, ani Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Yasher koach, Michael, I want to be wherever it is that you are right now. We
Not inside
continue
that
with
though.
That's in Chichen Itza in Yucatan, Mexico.
Never been. Next year, maybe. We continue with the fourth Aliyah, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 1. For this Aliyah, we call on Irving Beanstalk.
Yamod revi.
think you are muted, Irving.
Okay.
There we
Oh,
go.
now we have you.
Bochu is Adonai Hambaroch.
Baruch
Adonai
Adonai
Baruch
Le'olam
Le'olam
Va'ed.
Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambaroch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bo chaborno mikol ha'amim. V'nosan lonas ta'osau. Baruch Atah Adonai Naosein ha'taro.
Amen.
Amen. V'adaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el b'nei Yisrael v'marta alehem moadei Adonai asher tikra'u otam mikra'ei kodesh Elohem moadai sheshet yamim te'aseh malakah uvayom ha'shvi'i Shabbat Shabbaton Mikra Kodesh Kol Malakha Lo Ta'asu Shabbat Hi L'Adonai B'Kol Moshvotechem.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher nosan lonas taras emes. V'chaye olam nota b'tzachenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Naosein ha'taro.
Amen. Yasher Koach, Irving. We continue page 725, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 4, the fifth Aliyah. We call on Natalie's grandmother here in the sanctuary, Sharon Berman, to join us up on the bima.
Ta'amot Surah Leah bat Ella ve'Esther Chamishi.
Baruch et Adonai Hambarah.
Baruch
Baruch
Adonai
Baruch
Le'olam
Le'olam
Va'ed.
Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarah Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher bashubanu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Elam Moadei Adonai Mikra'ei Kodesh Asher Tikru Otam B'Moadam B'Chodesh HaRishon B'Arba'a Asar LaChodesh Mein HaArbaim Pesach L'Adonai V'Chamisha Asar Yom LaChodesh Hazeh Chag HaMatzot L'Adonai Shivat Yamin Matzot Tokelu. Bayom Harishon Mikra Kodesh Yeh Lachem Kol Maleket Avodah Lo Ta'asu Vikravtem Ishel Adonai Shivat Yamin Bayom Hashvi'i Mikra Kodesh Kol Maleket Avodah Lo Ta'asu.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayenu olam natabanu Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher Koach, Sharon, Mazel Tov.
Thank you.
Where are you joining us from today?
Florida.
Florida. Welcome to North Carolina. Mazel Tov.
Thank you.
Great to have you here. We continue with the sixth Aliyah, which will be Leviticus chapter 23, verse 9, page 725 in the Chumashim. Our reader will be Dan Biber, and we call on Natalie's grandparents, Joan and Jeffrey Barrist.
Yamdu Yehuda ben Yitzchak v'Leah, Elena bat Yaakov v'Chai ki shishi.
Come on up to the Torah. And Natalie, you can show them.
Baruch hu Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bacha banu mikol ha'alim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el bnei Yisrael v'yamarta lehem. Ki tavor la'aretz asher ani noten lachem. Uksartem et hakatzira. V'aveitem et ha'omer reshit ketzirchem. El hakohen. V'henif et ha'omer lifnei Adonai l'rtzonechem. ממחרת השבת יניפנו הכהן, ועשיתם ביום הניבכם את העומר, כבש תמים בין שנתו לעולה לאדוני, ומנחתו 2 עשרונים, צורפו לולב השמן, איש אל אדוני ריח ניחוח, ונזכור יין רבית ההין, ולחם וחלי וכרמל לא תאכלו עד עצם היום הזה עד הביאכם את קורבן אלוהיכם חוקת עולם לדורותיכם בכל מושבותיכם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chai olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Joan and Jeff, Yasher Koach, Mazel Tov, welcome. And where did you join us from today?
Connecticut.
From where?
Connecticut.
Connecticut, I've heard of it. Welcome, Mazel Tov, we're glad you could be with us.
Thank you.
We continue with the 7th Aliyah, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 15, page 726. And we are happy to call on the parents of the bat mitzvah, Alexis and David Berman. It's your turn in the spotlight.
Yamdu Malka bat Yehuda ve'Elena ve'David ben Isa ve'Sura Leah Shvi.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach.
Baruch
Baruch leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. וספרתם לכם ממחת השבת, מיום הביאכם את עומר התנופה, שבשבתות תמימות תהיינה, עד ממחת השבת השביעית תספרו 50 יום, והקרבתם מנחה חדשה לאדוני. ממושבותיכם תביאו לכם תנופה, 2 עשרונים, שלא תהיינה חמץ תאכלנה, ביקורים לאדוני, והקרבתם על הלחם 7 כבשים תמימים בני שנה, ופר בן בקר 1 ואלים 2, יהיו עולה לאדוני, ומנחתם ונזקיהם, איש ערך ניחוח לאדוני, ועשיתם זריזים 1 לחטאת, ו2 כבשים בני שנה לזבח שלמים, והניף הכהן אותם. לחם הביקורים תנופה לפני אדוני על 2 כבשים, קודש יהיו לאדוני לכהן, וקראתם בעצם היום הזה, מקרא קודש יהיה לכם, כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו, חוקת עולם בכל מושבותיכם לדורותיכם. ובקוצרכם את קצירתכם לא תכלה בצד בקוץ לך, ולך קיצרך לא תלקט, לעני ולגר תעזוב אותם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan לנו emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Alexis, David, Yasher Koach, Mazel Tov. Take a breath. You're here. You made it. Good job. You can sit down. Natalie, you can sit down. Not yet. Almost your turn. Almost. Before we continue with the Maftir reading, we take this opportunity to pray on behalf of those who are ill. This Shabbat morning, we include in our prayers Chana Miriam bat Rivka, Avram Mordechai ben Fega, Tamar bat Rachel Yehuda, Rav Yaakov Chai ben Hadassah, Shimon ben Yaakov, Mordechai ben Naomi, Devorah bat Sarah, Hershel Yehoshua ben Malka, Perel bat Rezel, Dov ben Ita, Shmuel Yaakov ben Kalia ba'ari, Devorah Rachel, Malka bat Sarah, Levi Israel ben Sipora, Eliza Meira bat Leah, Sivya bat Chana, Yudit bat Miriam, Meira Bracha bat Chana, Sipora bat Chasha, Fegla bat Chasha, Arya ben Malka, Rachel bat Ruth, Harav Moshe Al-Chanan ben Harav Avraham HaLevi, Kalman Pinchas ben Moshe ve'eta, Sarah bat Chaya, Chanuch Yitzchak ben Sarah, Sarah bat Shendel, Benyamin Noah, Avery Yitzchak, Yosef ben Miriam, Shiri Ruth Batya bat Yaakov Yerushalayim, Cyril ben Moshe Kalman, Miriam Tzivya bat Aaron Betova, Chava Charna bat Zeb Dov, Leah bat Tzvi Zisala, Natan Shmuel ben Yaakov Tzvi Halevi, Dawson Julia, Howard and Beverly Kaufman, Elijah Avila, Jordana Faith Ram, Mabel Tannenbaum, Kathy Berlin, Maxine Albaum, Sandra Harold, Don Roth, and Philip LaMancha. Now take a moment to recite the names of anyone else you'd like to pray for this morning. Misha Berach, the prayer for healing.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
A prayer for healthcare workers. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless you for honoring God and caring for God's creation. May God protect and save you from COVID-19 and all other illness, and send blessing and success to the work of your hands, along with all others who are doing their part to ease suffering and to save lives. May God bless you every time you rise up from your bed, walk out of your home, and go to work. And may you return to your loved ones each and every day in full health. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Please rise for the Chatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועמד יברח ילותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך, יתברך וישבח ויבר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה וימרו. Amen.
May be seated. The holiest, most precious object that we keep in the synagogue that a Jewish community has is the Sefer Torah, the Torah scroll, handwritten containing our earliest stories. And while we keep it in the Ark, the Torah is the possession of every member of the community who can come up, who can read from it, who can bless it. And that's why we call our bat mitzvahs and our bar mitzvahs up to the Torah on the day that they celebrate, to bless the Torah for the first time, to take hold of the Torah and make it their own. We have one final Aliyah, the Maftir, the concluding Aliyah. We turn ahead in the Chumashim to page 733, Leviticus chapter 24, verse 21. And to bless the Torah and to read this Aliyah, we call for to the Torah for the very first time our bat mitzvah, Natalie Berman.
Yamod habachura habat mitzvah Malka bat Yehuda velina v'David ben Isa v'Sora Leah. I'm doing the wrong one. Esther bat David v'Malka maftir chazak.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Torah got rolled back a little bit.
Akeh vehema yeshamena umakeh adam yumat mishpat ehad yehieh lahem kager kaezra yehieh ki ani Adonai Elohehem Vayedaber Moshe El Bnei Yisrael Vayotziu etam kamlel El mihutz limahane Vayergemu oto aven Ubnei Yisrael Amsu ka'asher Tiva Adonai et Moshe. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nata b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Natalie, great job. Yasher kochech. I invite everyone to please rise as we lift and dress the Torah. Torah will be lifted by David Berman and dressed by Natalie's friend, Jackie Rao. Come on up. Okay, wait for her to get here. Hold on, David.
Vezot haTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai biyad Moshe. Vezot haTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael. Vezot haTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei
Well done, Yasher Koach.
May be seated. In addition to reading from the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, each week we chant a haftarah, a section from the prophets that is thematically linked to the Torah portion. And the haftarah for Parshat Emor can be found on page 735 in the Chumashim, Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 15. Natalie is going to teach us first about her Torah portion, through her Dvar Torah, her words of Torah, and then chant her Haftarah. So, Natalie, I'm going to invite you to.
Hello and welcome. I'm very glad to have you here today. I'm very thankful to be able to have my bat mitzvah, at least partially in person, and celebrate here in the synagogue. I can't tell you how excited I am to be able to see all of you, many of whom I haven't seen in over a year, and others in 3 or 4 years. My Torah portion, which we read this morning, is Emor, which starts off with Moses talking to Aaron at the base of Mount Sinai after the 10 Commandments have been given to the Jewish people. Moses is telling Aaron about the laws addressed to him and the other priests. The Kohanim, or Jewish priests, are descended from Levi. Today they are given special honors at synagogue, such as having the first Aliyah. And often people with the last names Cohen, Khan, Kaplan, and Katz believe that they are descended from Aaron. In ancient times, they had special responsibilities in the temple, and because they had direct contact with God and important jobs, they had additional laws that other people didn't have to follow. They had specific people they could and couldn't marry, they couldn't grow out their hair, and had to remain pure and healthy when entering the temple. The second part of Parshat Emor is about holidays that we are familiar with, such as Shabbat, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Passover. When I read my Torah portion, I took notice of the fact that it feels very exclusionary. For example, if you are injured, you aren't allowed near the holy shrine. People get hurt and injured all the time, and it seems unnecessary to exclude them, especially since this took place as they were traveling across the desert. Another restriction is that priests may only marry certain people to remain pure, such as not marrying someone that has been divorced. This is very different from today, as our divorce rate in the United States is 50%, and it doesn't make them impure. Probably the most exclusive part is that almost all the laws are addressed to men and almost none to women. This seems very unfair, since women are an important part of society and have an equal, if not more important, role than men, as it is their job to birth children. However, Judaism has changed over time and is still changing. The Torah was written a very long time ago, and it is still our holy book. But the stories we read are only the beginning of our Judaism. Jews for centuries have been making our religion more inclusive. Women used to not be able to have bat mitzvahs or be rabbis, but our religious school has a great female rabbi, and I'm here today having a bat mitzvah and reading from the Torah. We try to include everyone, and any Jewish person can have a bar or bat mitzvah, and people can even convert to Judaism now. Judaism has also grown to include people with disabilities. People with broken bones and other injuries are not only welcomed in the temple, but we also try to make our temples more accessible. For example, look to my left at the ramp leading up to the bima. In the book of ethics, called Parkei Avot, Rabbi Meir teaches, don't look at the flask, but rather at what it contains. This means that we should not judge people based on the first external characteristic that we see, but rather take the time to know what they're like on the inside. I think that this lesson could also be about the Torah itself. Rather than looking at just the first text that we see in the Torah, look at what the Torah holds or is a basis for, which is all of our Judaism and its teachings. Now I would like to thank some people. First, to the rabbi and cantor for helping me get to this point. I couldn't have gotten here today without you. Thank you to my first, second, third, fifth, and sixth grade teacher, Rowan. You're the best teacher I've ever had. You didn't only teach me academics, you helped teach me to problem solve, to be more patient and positive. Thank you to my grandparents for being there to put a smile on my face and to share your experiences and interests with me. Thank you to my best friend ever, Jackie, for making every day I see you one I look forward to. You help me with schoolwork and write stories with me. You are a kind and considerate friend that thinks of everyone else before yourself. You make me laugh when I am feeling sad and are always there no matter what. Thank you to my brother Zachary for being someone I can rely on for a laugh. Although you do get under my skin sometimes, like any sibling, you are kind and caring. You make me a baked treat or drawing when I am sad and play games with me when I need to have some fun. And if I ever really need a good laugh, you are the person I would turn to. You are the funniest and most comical person I've ever met. Finally, thank you to my parents, who have done more for me than I could ever tell you. Honestly, I could write an entire speech just about the things they have done for me, but I'll try to keep it short. My mom makes so many sacrifices for me, probably more than I even know of. My mom drives over 2 hours a day taking me and my brother to school because she wants us to go to a good school. This summer, we are taking a trip to the Northeast to look at boarding schools for me for high school because my parents want me to get a good education. My parents spend a ton of time every summer getting me ready for sleepaway camp, driving me there, and dealing with all the technicalities of it just because they know that I love going there. These are just a small amount of the things my parents do for me. Thank you all for coming to celebrate today with me.
Yasher Kochech. Natalie, thank you for teaching us. We continue with the Haftarah in the Eitz Chaim Chumash, page 735, beginning Ezekiel chapter 44, verse 15.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar binvi'im tovim ve'ratza v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo ובישראל עמו, ובנביאי האמת והצדק. והכהנים הלוויים בני צדוק, אשר שמרו את משמרת מקדשי בתאות בני ישראל מעלי, המה יקרבו אלי לשרתני ועמדו לפני, להקריב לי לבדם נאום אדוני אלוהים. המה יבואו אל מקדשי והמה יקרבו אל שולחני לשרתני ושמרו את משמרתי, והיה בבואם אל שערי החצר הפנימית בגדי פלישתים ילבשו ולא יעלה אליהם צמר בשרתם בשערי החצר הפנימית והביתה פערי פלישתים יהיו על ראשם וכמניסי פלישתים יהיו על מותניהם לא יחקרו בעזה ובצאתם אל החצר החיצונה, אל החצר החיצונה, אל העם יפשטו את בגדיהם אשר המה משרתים בם, ונהיו אותם בלשכות הקודש, ולבשו בגדים מהירים, ולא יקדשו את העם בבגדיהם. בראשם לא יגלחו, עופרה לא ישלחו, כסום ישמו את ראשיהם, ויין לא ישתו, כל כהן בבואם אל החצר הפנימית. ואלמנה וגרושה לא ייכו להם, לנשים כי אם בתולות מזרע בית ישראל, ואלמנה אשר תהיה אלמנה מכהן יקהו, ותמי יורו בין קודש לחול, ובין טמא לטהור יודיעום. ועל ריב Bema yamdu lemishvat mishvatai yifshetu vetoretotai vetokotai vetmoadai yishmoru vetrabetotai yikadeshu ve'amet adam lo yavo letama ki'im lahav ulem ulevein uvat leah ulahot asher lo haita leish yitama'u ve'aharai tahorato shivat yamim yisperulo uveyom bo el hakodesh el hatzer hapnimit l'sharet ba'kodesh Yakriv hatato neum Adonai Elohim v'hayata lahem na'ala ani nahalatam v'ahuzah lo titnu lahem be'Yisrael ani ahuzatam hamim ha v'hayatat v'ha'asham hema yochum v'hoherem be'Yisrael lahem yiyeh Bereshit kol bikorei kol bekol trumat kol mikol trumotehem lekohanim yehiyeh Bereshit arisotehem titnu lekohanim leani abraha el beiteha kol nevela utrefa min ha'uf umin ha'brahema lo yochlu hakohanim Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzor kol ha'olamim tzadik bechol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh hamdaber umkayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu V'ne'emanim devareha, v'davareha midvareha, ahor lo yashuv rekam, ki el melech ne'eman, v'rahaman atah, baruch atah Adonai. Ha'el ha'ne'eman, v'ho devarav.
Amen.
Rahem al Tzion, Ki beit ha'heinu, vela aluvat nefesh toshia, bimheira be'amenu, baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
mesameat Tzion, bevanecha.
Amen.
Samheinu, Adonai Eloheinu, be'eliyahu hanavi avdeha, uvmalhut beit David, Meshihecha, bimheira yavo, ve'yagel libenu, al kiso lo yeshev zar, velo yihaluot aherim et hevodo, ki veshem kojaha nishvatalo, shelo kipenero leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
Magen David.
Amen.
Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanvi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limnuha l'havodo ultifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim la uvarhim otah Yitbar hashim habifikol hai tamid leolam va'ed baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen. Natalie, great job. There's a big smile. Feel good now? David and Alexis, why don't you come up and stand with Natalie? Zachary, is everybody armed?
Wait. There's one thing I want to do.
Hold on, we're not up to that yet.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Uh-oh.
Oh, you took
You can try it in a little bit. It's a lot of throat loss.
Don't tell Zachary.
So why don't you guys face me over here? We can have a little chat between two layers of plexiglass. So Natalie, Mazel Tov on celebrating your bat mitzvah this morning, and Yasher Kochech, great job leading us in Kabbalat Shabbat last night. Services this morning, reading Torah and Haftarah, and sharing your own teachings. Mazel Tov as well to your parents, Alexis and David, who are standing up here with you, to your brother Zachary down there in the congregation, to all of your family, friends, and teachers who are with us today in person and virtually. In your Dvar Torah, in your speech, you addressed some very weighty issues. More than just looking at the specific details of your Torah portion, you looked at the bigger question of how the society it describes functions. And from what I know about you, this is actually not that surprising. Your parents describe you as incredibly bright. That's a compliment, right? And as someone who takes school very seriously. You like to debate people, but get frustrated when others just don't know the facts of the matter. While math may be your favorite subject, we're going to have to disagree on that, you're also closely attuned to politics and enjoy studying history, including ancient Greece and Rome, which there's some fascinating Jewish connections there. You especially, I'm told, enjoyed the book Unbroken, the story of a United States Air Force bomber who crashed in the Pacific Ocean in 1943. Can I ask, what did you enjoy about that book, or what did you find meaningful about that story?
Just the history behind it and how people were treated and what people think of each other.
Got it. Okay, it was an inspiring book. And the history of World War II. You can be a very serious-minded person. As you probably noticed, I like to joke with B'nai Mitzvah students, but Natalie, I admit that it's been somewhat a bit of a challenge to get you to crack a smile, although there we go right now. But I do want to share with the congregation another facial gesture you once made at me. When we first met, your parents shared that you are a voracious reader. And at that time, you were asking in a pretty determined way for your parents to take you to Barnes & Noble to get a new book. I hope you got it since then, that particular one. I asked you what kind of books you like, and you said sci-fi or fantasy. So I thought, let's compare notes. I asked you if you liked the Star Wars books I was reading. Well, you did not. Not only did you not like it, you let me know by pretending to gag. There's that laugh. A similar reaction when I asked you about Harry Potter. Okay, fine, Natalie, you and I might have different taste in literature. You prefer dystopian novels, especially The Hunger Games. For those not familiar with the genre, a dystopian book will usually depict an imaginary state or society where there is great suffering or injustice. And The Hunger Games is probably the most popular young adult series of novels. I believe it is probably the highest sold series of novels on Amazon, still, almost a decade after it came out. What's the story of The Hunger Games about, the basic story?
It's about a girl whose sister gets chosen to fight to the death with 23 other people in an arena.
Okay, so it's about a hero who stands up, who has the odds stacked against her in a society that is unjust, that is unfair.
Yes.
That's the gist of it?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I bring this up, Natalie, because in your Dvar Torah, you looked for injustice. You looked for suffering in a society that was very different than our own. It's one thing to read about injustice in a fictional work, but it's another thing to see it in our sacred texts, in our ancient texts. And I'm glad that you were willing to ask about it, because that's exactly what our tradition encourages us to do. The Torah, as you taught us, is our first attempt to bring justice to a world where it can be lacking. But it's not perfect. As you said, each generation of Jews has done their part to make Judaism and the wider world a more equitable place and to keep us away from any kind of dystopian society. Now that you have become a bat mitzvah, an adult in the eyes of the Jewish community, this becomes your responsibility as well. It can be fun to read about societies that persecute their own people and heroes that stand up against them. But you should remember that the Torah and our Jewish teachings provide us lessons like tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue, and ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love, treat your neighbor as you would yourself. Those lessons that we use to shape our world. So Natalie, you marked your bat mitzvah today by chanting from the Torah and by noting the places where it may sound unfair. But you become a true bat mitzvah, a daughter of the mitzvot, by bringing the Torah's vision of a better world into reality. Natalie, Mazel Tov, Cantor and I are extremely proud of you today. And Cantor is now going to bless you with the words of Berkat Kohanim, the ancient words of the priests that you read about in the Torah portion, the words that the priests used to bless the people, and the words that we now use to bless our children and our family members. After Cantor blesses you with the Berkat Kohanim, we sing Siman Tov and Mazel Tov, and that's the symbol for everybody who's been armed by Zachary to loft their candies and Natalie, showering her with sweetness on the occasion of her bat mitzvah. Cantor?
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ken yehi ratzon Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka Ken yehi ratzon May God bless you and protect you. May God show you favor and be gracious unto you. May God show you kindness and grant you peace and grant you peace. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Ken yehi ratzon, ken yehi ratzon, ken yehi ratzon, ken yehi ratzon. Siman tov u'mazel tov u'mazel tov u'siman tov, siman tov u'mazel tov u'mazel tov u'siman tov, siman tov u'mazel tov u'mazel tov u'siman tov. Yehi lanu, yehi lanu, yehi lanu, u'lecho Yisrael. Yehi lanu, u'lecho Yisrael. Yehi lanu, u'lecho Yisrael. Yehi lanu, u'lecho Yisrael.
Mazel Tov. Natalie, Mazel Tov, you survived that. You were not afraid to fight back.
Just
You had your stash in there. Throat lozenges are a great choice. You can take a seat for a minute. I'm kind of scared to call him up, but now I'm going to invite your brother, Zachary Berman, up to the bima. We turn back to our Sidurim, the prayer for our country, the United States of America, the middle of page 177. Please rise. 177. Got it.
A prayer for our country. Our God and God of our ancestors, with mercy, accept our prayer on behalf of our country and its government. Pour out your blessing upon this land, upon its inhabitants, upon its leaders, its judges, officers, and officials who faithfully devote themselves to the need of the public. Help them understand the rules of justice you have decreed so that peace and security, happiness and freedom will never depart from our land. Adonai, God whose spirit is in all creatures, we pray that your spirit be awakened with all the inhabitants of our land. Uproot our hearts hatred and malice, jealousy and strife. Plant love, companionship, peace and friendship among the many people and faith who dwell in our nation. Grant us the knowledge to judge justly, the wisdom to act with compassion, and understanding to encourage to root out poverty from our land. May it be your will that our land be a blessing to all who dwell on earth, and may you cause all peoples to dwell in friendship and freedom. Speedily fulfill the vision of our prophets. Nation shall not lift up swords against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. For all of them, from the least of them to the greatest, shall know me, and let us say amen.
Amen. Avinu Shabbat Shamayim, stronghold and redeemer of the people Israel. Bless the state of Israel, that it may be the beginning of our redemption. Shield it with your love. Spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and your advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Deliver them, crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
May be seated, page 181, Ashrei.
Ashrei Ashrei B'techa Od Yalelu Chasela. Tehillat Adonai Yidבר Piv Yivarech Kol Bas Hashem Kodsho Le'olam Va'ed V'anachnu Nevarech Yam Yatav Yad Olam. Hallelujah.
Page 183, please rise for the conclusion of the Torah service. We call on Paul and Gabriel Cohen, Natalie's uncle and cousin, to come up to open the ark. David, would you hand the Torah to Natalie? From the bottom. You guys come over here. There's a string to pull. Come up to the bima.
Hallelujah, et Shem Adonai, ki niskar Shemo levado.
Hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren liyamo, tehillah lechol chasidav, livnei Yisrael am kerovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Mizmor leDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Edim, Havul Adonai kavod vaz, Havul Adonai kavod shemo hishtach, Havul Adonai behadrat kodesh, Kol Adonai l'mayim el kavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim, Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, vayishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, vayarkidim kemo egel Lebanon, v'siryon kemo ben reimim. Kol Adonai chotev lavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai mibahar kadesh, Kol Adonai yicholel hayalot, vayachasov yarot uvehechalo kulo merkavod, Adonai lamavuya, shavayeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai os le'amo yitin, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom.
Page 184.
Et hayim hi lama hazikim ba betom heha meushar deraheha darhe noam behonativoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai eleha venashuva hadesh hadesh yamenu kekedem hadesh hadesh yamenu kekedem.
You got it, Mazel Tov. You guys can sit down. You guys can go down. We continue the middle of page 184 with the Chatzi Kaddish. Amen. Page 185. Cantor Lissick and Natalie lead us in the beginning of the Musaf Amidah. Page 185.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rahel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor Vehanara El Elyon Gomel Hasadim Tovim Vekonei Hakol Vezoher Hasdei Avot Uvmevi Goel Livnei V'nehem Leman Shemo Be'achava Mele Ozer Ufokedu Moshia Umagen Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ufoked Sarah Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mehaye Metim Atah V'loshia Mehakel Hayim Behesed Mehaye Metim Berachamim Ramim Sofei Noflim Verofei Holim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Mikamo Haba'al Birot Umidom Elah Melech Mimid Umehayeh Umatmiya Yeshua V'ne'eman Atah Lahalot Metim Baruch Atah Adonai Mehayeh HaMetim Naritzecha V'nagdishcha Ketzotziach Sarfei Kodesh Hamagdishim Shimcha B'Kodesh Kakatuv Ayad Nevi'echa V'kara Zel V'amar Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh Adonai Tzevaot Meloch Ol Haaretz Kevodo Kevodo Malei Olam Mishar Tov Shoalim Zeh Lazeh Ayeh Mekom Kevodo Niumatam Baruch Yomeru Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimkomo Mimkomo Huifen Berachamim V'yachonam Mechadim Shemo Erev Avoker B'chol Yom Tamid Pamayim B'Ahava Shema Omrim Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu Vehu Yashmienu Berachamav Shenit Berachamav Shenit Leinei Kol Chai Vehu Yashmienu Berachamav Shenit Berachamav Shenit Leinei Kol Chai Liot Lachem Le'Elohim
קודשך כתוב לאמור, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה.
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גולך, לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גולך, ולנצח-נצחים, ולנצח-נצחים, קדושך נקדיש. ולנצח-נצחים, ולנצח-נצחים, קדושך נקדיש. לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גולך, לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור,
לדור ודור נגיד גולך, ושבחה אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד. כי המלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, וקדוש וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue praying silently through page 192.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי רצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי
Page 203, Kaddish Shalem.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
ויאמר דברי חירותי ומברכותי בחיי חיים ובכל בית ובית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויפאר Afar Vitroma Vina Sepisa Tarvisa Vitalash Minikud Shabrihu Leila Minko Berkata Vishirata Dushbrata Vinachmata Damiran Biama Vimru Amen. Tin Kabal Soton of Alton to Israel Kotam Avohon Vishmai Vimru Amen. Ishamarab Minchmai Vachamelin Vako Israel Vimru Amen. Ose Shalom Bimroma Fuyase Shalom Alinu Vako Israel Vako Yoshvite Vel Vimru Amen.
Amen. May be seated. We continue page 204 in Kelohenu.
In Kelohenu, in Kadonenu, in Kemalkenu, in Kemoshienu, mi Kelohenu, mi Kadonenu, mi Kemalkenu, mi Kemoshienu, Nodel Elohenu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Malkenu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Elohenu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shiktiru, Avotenu, Lefanecha Ketoret Hasamim.
Page 205, please rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula lioter breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratot, velo samanu kemishpechot hatama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, vigor aleinu kechol hamonam, vanachnu korim umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malachei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu notes shamayim v'yoser haaretz, moshe v'karo b'shamayim mimal, u'shchinatu zo, begovim meromim, Eloheinu einot, efesulato, kakatu b'torato,
V'yadata yom v'hashevota el levavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim imal, v'al haaretz mitachat einot, not kidding about
Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai loch leolam va'ed v'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz v'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo
May be seated. We turn to the Mourner's Kaddish, page 207. This Shabbat, we mark the yort sites of Boris Wanowich, Jacob Fishman, Bernard Bernhard, Doris Zippel, Sophia Jacobson, May Walsh, Hirsch Kipperman, Hyman Perlowitz, Anna Glassman, Simon Edward Langman, Aaron Hirschman, Dora Williams, Pearl Bregman, Bessie Richmond, Gerald Crystal, Herbert Goldsmith, Hyman Weingart, Irving Shapiro, Judy Sutker, Robert Gomlin, Sandra Hirsch, Belle Doktovsky, Milton Cantor, Susan Brinus, Abraham Shamstein, Alla Buchengoltz, Sylvia Schoenwalter, Rose Zucker, George Seth, Ray London, Leonard Walder, Joseph Layton, and Roger Kushner. We also extend condolences to Mary Jean Kushner on the passing of her husband, Howard Kushner, and to Craig Maddens for the passing of his mother, Audrey Maddens. May all of their memories always be for a blessing. Page 207. I invite those in mourning and those marking a yort site to rise and join me in the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalmad divera kirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shemei rabba mevorach leolam u'lomeo maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yit'ale v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha brihu le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechamata damiran b'alma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May be seated. I now call on the President of Temple Israel, Teresa Brenner, for a presentation to Natalie.
Thank you, Rabbi Walk. Natalie, please accept this gift bag from your Temple Israel family. It's my pleasure to let you know that you have received from the Women of Temple Israel Shabbat candle holders, from the Temple Israel Youth Group a Havdalah candle, from Hebrew High a logo insulated beverage cup, from Men's Club an It's a Hayim traveling edition with a personal book plate, from your Temple Israel Board of Trustees an I Am Jewish book, and from your Temple Israel clergy a beautiful English and Hebrew certificate. When you use or see these items in the years to come, may you recall the love of your parents and your family and the pride of your Temple Israel family on this joyous occasion. Shabbat Shalom, Temple Israel family. Thank you, Rabbi Walk and Cantor Lissick for leading us in services, Sean Seifert for your audiovisual services, and Tawani Dewberry for serving as our Zoom Gabbai. A warm welcome to Natalie Berman, her parents David and Alexis Berman, her brother Zachary, her grandparents Sharon Berman, Joan and Jeffrey Barrist, and her family, friends, and teachers. Natalie, you led us so beautifully and confidently in services this morning, and we look forward to your participation in services for many years to come. Yashir Koa to each of this morning's Aliyot honorees, Torah and Haftorah readers, Sylvia Schwartz, Bunny Bramson, Michael Abadi, Irving Beanstalk, Sharon Berman, Joan and Jeffrey Barrist, Alexis and David Berman, Natalie Berman, Barney Weinstock, Steve Powell, Dan Biber, and Natalie Berman. We are open for services in person in May for up to 50 congregants, and we're pleased to announce that tomorrow on Sunday we are resuming Morning Minyan at 9 a.m. outside at Temple Israel. Stay tuned for additional adaptations for our continued reopening starting June 1st. COVID-19 shots are widely available for those ages 16 and older. Please get your shot and join us. It's magical to be gathered together again in our beautiful sanctuary. Women of Temple Israel will be celebrating Modi Shabbat on Friday, May 7th in the new garden, courtyard, and amphitheater with up to 75 congregants. Please sign up online. It will be a spiritual and mystical Kabbalat Shabbat where we celebrate and honor women. Rabbi Wolk holds Jews and Brews on Thursdays at 10 a.m. and on Thursday, May 13th at noon, he will hold a lunch and learn entitled The Mystery of Fleisch is Chicken Parmesan Kosher. While lunches have been claimed, please join us to attend and learn. After Shabbat, please see our website, Kol Israel, in your weekly email for complete information about our in-person services, the Shabbat Zoom link, and the Stream Spot box, and upcoming events, including youth events with Alan Jonathan. We offer many opportunities for services, learning, community, and friendship. Please join us. Shabbat Shalom, and Mazel Tov again, Natalie, to you and your family and friends.
Thank you, Teresa. And just to elaborate on our reopening and Minyan in person tomorrow morning, all services will continue to be on StreamSpot and Zoom as they have been at this point, so that people can participate from their homes if they are not comfortable yet returning fully to the sanctuary. We look forward to the day when everybody feels comfortable and safe together, surrounded by other people, but we know that it is a process. We continue on page 2. We conclude our service this morning on page 211 with Adon Olam.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ליד נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא אדון עולם והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ליד נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם והוא אחד ואין שני להמשילו להכבירה אדון עולם בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ליד נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם בידו אפקיד רוחי ויתישן ויעיר אדון עולם ואם רוחי גבי אותי אדוני לי ולא ירא אדון עולם.
Please rise for Kiddush. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. על כן ברך אדוני יום השבת ויקדשהו, סברים מרנן ורבנן ורבותיי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov. If you're on
Mazel
Zoom, feel free to unmute yourself.
Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov.
Oh my God! God, this is so good. Say congratulations.
Shalom, everybody.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov, Natalie.
Mazal Tov, Natalie and everyone.
Mazel tov, Natalie, you did a great job. You were really, really good.
Wait. Don't go. Don't go.
Congratulations, Natalie.
Wait, Paul.
Good job. Good job.
Come back. The rabbi forgot something, so just sit. Just sit for me. Zachary, you're not going to eat that, so stop.
Hang tight. We might have a special surprise. Hang tight.
Oh, there's Erica. Yeah. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie.
Say hi.
Hi.
Say congratulations, Natalie.
There's a little boy.
It's gonna.
What happened? Never mind.
Mazel Tov.
Ariel. Yes, I know.
What?
Yeah, they don't have the file.